fell down the stairs this week. And am I going to blame that on being low income? Yes, I am. So after my last video in this series, which you can watch here or maybe here, I'm not too sure, we put up a quote from it on social media that said, "Spontaneity is the enemy of the low income family." And to be honest, I felt pretty good about it. I hadn't planned to say it, but I thought, well, that sounds pretty insightful and fairly catchy. Like, I was quite proud of myself. And some people agreed with it and some people did not agree with it. And it definitely deserved a little bit more nuance that would maybe answer the questions on both sides of the argument. So I've been mulling it over and I've been thinking about spontaneity for my own family and thinking about it for the discussions that we have here on YouTube as well. And it was Wednesday evening, kind of early evening, and it was almost dinner time. The house was a mess. We'd done like nothing on my to-do list, which was like a mile long. And the sun finally came out. And I thought, am I just being like a spontaneity Scrooge? Like, I don't just say yes to things as much. I'm not like, let's run out and do this. And I thought, this is it. We're going to do it now. So I told the kids to grab their wellies and off we went straight to the park. And it was brilliant. We collected loads of snail shells. We found a golf ball and played pretend golf. We had so much fun. We saw 3 rainbows. Like, it was so worth it. And yeah, it didn't cost any money. Spontaneity happened and it was beautiful. So we started to get hungry. It was dinner time now. My kitchen's a mess back home. I'm aware of that in my head, but I'm also aware that I don't want dinner time and bedtime to be too late because I've got to work that evening. And so I made another spontaneous decision. I took some of the money that we'd had planned for trips that I didn't think we were going to take that week, and we went into a cafe to order food to take back to the park and eat. And my kids were excited. Their hopes were high. This doesn't normally happen. So I ordered the food and get told the cost, and I reached to get my purse, realised I hadn't brought any money out because I was being spontaneous. And because sometimes low-income families, whether or not we have the judgment, we can feel a judgment that people are looking at us and presuming things. And I thought, if I say here like, oh, I don't have any money, I'm gonna look, I don't know, I just felt like that awkwardness of like, this is going to make people think like, oh, she's making excuses now she's heard the price, or it's just going to be so awkward, and I hate social awkwardness. And also, we're being spontaneous, so I have to do this. My kids' hopes are really high. So I carry this kid, and I'm pulling the others along with me along the pavement to rush back home to get my purse, to come back and pay. We race there. It's starting to rain a little bit, but we're so excited. We get in and I head upstairs in my wet wellies to get the purse, and then I'm like, oh, a picnic mat, let's do this. We're going to have such a great time. We're going to watch the sunset, and then boom, down the stairs. I slid, kind of banging on every step as I tumble. My back's hurting, my arms hurting, my neck's hurting, my head's hurting, but we're being spontaneous. So I just have to commit. And also, you want to reassure your kids that like, I'm fine. So up I get, adrenaline's running. I don't want the cafe to think that we've just ditched them. So we race back and it starts to pour with rain. I pay for my food, and by that time, I'm incredibly dizzy. So we spend the evening eating chips in front of the TV while I lie on the sofa. Now, obviously, yes, I know rich people can fall downstairs too, I get that, but the pressure to be spontaneous was high and the resources to do so not quite as accessible as I thought, and yeah, I fell down the stairs. Parenting can be hard, home educating can be hard, being low income adds, for me, I think, an extra layer of difficulty onto that, and I think it's worth unpacking those experiences and those thoughts. Can we really be spontaneous on a low income as a home educating family, and does it even matter? So yes, I think it does matter, and for these reasons. Number one, no matter what style of home ed you have, most of us in some shape or form are child-led. And being child-led means being responsive to your child's special interests, to the questions that they have, to the opportunities that arise to meet those, and spontaneity is really helpful there. Two, sometimes we can feel the pressure more as a home educating family to provide a social circle for our friends and opportunities for community, of saying yes to meeting with people. That requires spontaneity at times, and we don't like to miss out on those opportunities. Number three, we're probably dealing with a diverse range of needs, even if we've just got one kid. But there's often different ages, different stages. We might have different neurodivergencies that we need to respond to, and that requires us to pivot sometimes. And pivoting, making sudden changes to meet those needs, it needs us to be spontaneous. Number four, home education is experience-based. That's a lot of the reason why we do it, to provide those for our kids. But we can't always plan and prepare for those. And we are really eager to take them when we come because of how it can develop our children. So if you're wanting to access a lot of different experiences, it will require spontaneity. So is that possible as a low-income home educating family? Of course it is, and a lot of you argued the case that you can do a lot of these things for free. Some people said we can just ditch our plans and go to the beach if we want, we can throw dance parties, we can say yes to lots of things that don't cost money. True. But here's where I think my original point is still very valid. Those spontaneous choices require privilege, and those privileges aren't always available to low-income families. Now, disclaimer, privileges in themselves aren't wrong. It's okay to be able to afford to do lots of those things. But if we don't understand our privileges, then sometimes we limit how inclusive and accessible home education can be. First, they require energy, and energy is a resource that being low income can really eat into. The constant decision making of what you can and can't afford, the mental energy of budgeting right down to the last penny, the emotional turmoil that you can have of the guilt or shame that you might feel, the extra hours that you're maybe having to work, or the additional job that you're doing can make you really physically tired. And then there's the fact that a lot of things that make things easier for ourselves cost money. So those conveniences are taken away and just require a lot more time and effort. And it's proven that if you live in a low-income family, and if you're in a low-income area, and you're a low-income family, then you're likely to have greater health needs and less support for those. So you could very practically have reasons for your energy being low. Second, these spontaneous experiences often require transport. If you have a car, right now filling up your car is costing a lot more, so you have to start to make choices. If you make that spontaneous trip one day, it might mean that you can't go somewhere the next day because your petrol budget has just run out. And then if you don't have a car like us, that adds on another layer of difficulty to spontaneity. A 15-minute car journey can easily be 45 minutes or more on a bus or a couple of buses, if buses even go there. And it can easily cost £10 to £15 to take me and my kids somewhere. And so that all adds up. And then there's that difficulty as well, that if you are spontaneous and public transport going somewhere, it doesn't mean you can be spontaneous in when you come back. So if you've got a kid that maybe might have some needs that require you to go home quickly, you can't do that. You can't necessarily retreat to a safe place in your own control, under your own control. So it can add a lot of layers of thinking to what could be a simple spontaneous choice for somebody else. A lot of spontaneity requires a safe and accessible location, and not everyone has that. Someone might live 5 minutes away from the beach. It might take a family like me 3 hours on the train to get there. And you might be able to walk to a woodland park near you, or you might live on a street where it's just not safe to go out at certain times, or without you being very close to your kids. And so, yeah, that can be a privilege, the type of location that you live in. And you might think that that just is what it is. But sadly, being a low-income family often means that your choices are limited. So you're limited in where you might live, what you might live in, the resources that you have available to you. Spontaneity really is a choice to say yes, and that's not always available for everybody. So my son woke up, they're playing outside, so I'm in the kitchen so I can watch them and do this at the same time. I apologise for the bad lighting and the half-finished painting. But yes, the bit I want to talk about next is possibly, I don't know, it makes me feel a little bit nervous. It's not controversial, but I think sometimes if we talk about ways to solve problems or hacks that we can have, then that implies that we're in control of the problem or that we caused the problem. And that is not the case with this cost of living crisis. It's not down to the actions of individuals like you and me. And there are bigger systems at play that need fixing. And my hack that I might share with you isn't going to solve that. So please know that I'm just sharing these because it's what I've been reflecting on, and sometimes it can empower us a little bit to kind of claw back a little bit of control. So there are a couple of things that I've thought about since falling down the stairs. So they might be concussion induced, but hopefully they make sense to you. So the first one was being prepared for spontaneity, which I know is a little bit ironic, don't you think? But there is truth in that if we're prepared for different situations, it's easier to say yes. So for me, that's going to be, I did spend some money to make this happen, but I got some little drawstring bags so that I can have a bag of snacks, and I use the more convenient snacks in those that can be are wrapped up. And we order those from websites that have a lot of kind of snacks at past their sell by date but not past their use by date, so we can get those cheaper, and I save those for that bag so that I can grab it and put it out. We'll have one with some extra clothes in, first aid kit, whatever it might be, and I'm going to have those hung in those different drawstring bags at the door, and so I can grab my rucksack and I can shove in whatever is needed. Another thing that I know I need to do is plan in rest for myself, because I can say yes much better from a place of rest and when I've got energy. So I'm going to plan that in for myself. I'm going to have to be fairly strict because I'm not very good at taking intentional rest and self-care. So that's something that I'm going to do. So secondly, I had a lot of time of rest yesterday after falling down the stairs. So I was thinking back to my own childhood and the things that I remembered as being special. And yes, there are some spontaneous things thrown in there, but the things that I really remember, they're things that have kind of built who I am and how I make my way through the world. Those things are the regular routine things. The things that my parents probably didn't really even think about doing, it just happened. So one for me was that my brothers, who were older, would come home from school later. So I'd get picked up by my mum, we'd go home, it'd just be me and her, and we'd have a cup of tea and a biscuit or a cake. And it was so special to me. And I remember it very clearly because it happened over and over again. I remember exactly how the window looked, how I felt in the chair, that I felt this special pride that I'm having this grown-up time with my mum. And we just got to talk about all the little things that had happened without anyone else interrupting. And it's given me a great love of tea, but also of having that moment to sit and decompress and think about what's happened in the day and then get ready for the next part. And that's like character building stuff for me. It's really part of who I am and how I connect with people as well, is sitting down and having a cup of tea. So that routine, nothing spontaneous about it at all, and nothing like extra special about it in some ways, but that was a really powerful memory for me. Another one is on Saturday nights we used to sit and watch the A-Team. Again, very little preparation in that, but the memories that I have from that are really special, and that's what built connection. So I guess is yes, my main takeaway is that yes, spontaneity can broaden experiences, and it is really powerful, and it is a privilege that we should be making more possible for more people. But ultimately, is connecting why I home ed? Maybe. And so am I creating opportunities to connect with my children? Maybe the spontaneity helps them connect with other experiences, but especially right now when I'm maybe having to hunker down, and especially if I'm tired and I've got to choose between spontaneity or not, then maybe for me it's remembering that connecting with my kids is what's most important. So thank you for listening, because Honestly, this is like therapy for me. I get to talk out all my ideas and see what resonates with myself when it comes out of my mouth. So thank you for listening. And I'm happy to talk about anything regarding low income and home education. So pop those questions below. Disagree with me however much you want. Give me new ideas and new ways of thinking. I would love that because it's really important. We've got to keep this conversation going. So thanks very much. Take care and I'll see you soon.